evening, everyone, and welcome to the St. Pete by Night Twitch channel where we play St. Petersburg by Night, a massive multiplayer 5th edition World of Darkness Chronicle set in St. Petersburg, Florida. My name is Kent, also known as Mishakent on all social media. I am the lead storyteller of St. Pete by Night, but I'm also the host of After Dark, which is what you are tuning into here tonight. It is our behind the scenes show where we talk to players of the game, we talk to storytellers of the game, we talk to movers and shakers within the world of darkness. And I am so psyched, you guys, because we are talking to by my own opinion, by many of your own opinions, a huge mover and shaker within the world of darkness, someone who has a great insight into how the game has grown and changed over the years. And of course, I'm talking about TheBurgerKrieg, who you can find on YouTube, you can find on Instagram, you can find on Twitter, with over 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. They have made content all over the map, and we're going to talk about some of that content, but we're going to focus primarily on the World of Darkness content tonight. But who knows? These things go all over the place, so we'll see what we end up talking about. But I got to tell you, I am really looking forward to this. So, Gideon, go ahead and introduce
Yes,
yourself.
that's a very correct pronunciation of my name.
I was hoping I was going to get it right on the first try. I'm really
It's
glad that I
because
did.
it's accurate because it's incorrect. It would be pronounced Gwydion if you were to pronounce it Welshly, but I was raised with it being pronounced Gideon, which is technically incorrect, but that is my true name essentially. So
Oh,
that is how it works.
fantastic. I knew I had like a 50-50 shot here, and I was like, I'm either going to start this off really poorly or I'm going to hit it out of the park on the first try, and I'm really glad it was the latter of the two.
Yeah, hi. I'm Gideon, also known as Burger Creek, the Burger Creek. Don't find me on Instagram. Actually, I don't do not do that.
Do not
But
do
find me
that.
on
Okay.
Twitter and YouTube. Find me on Twitter and YouTube.
Everywhere else?
I do,
Okay.
I never use Instagram. It's not worth it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I do World of Darkness content sometimes. I've done YouTube for a couple years now, and I where I just talk about stuff that interests me. I still can't really. Um, when somebody asks me, "Oh, what's your channel about?" I've started saying World of Darkness a little bit, World of Darkness and other stuff because people are really into that. Uh, but a lot of the time, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to say because it's whatever I say, people are going to ask even more questions.
I gotta tell you though, we have a lot of followers of your channel in our community, and they love your content, all of it. Like, it's not that they just found an interest in the World of Darkness content. We had people talking about your political content. We had people talking about your just everything. I got sent so many links of people saying, well, you should check this one out, you should check this one out, because I try to stay in the World of Darkness lane, but I just found myself looking at more and more videos of yours even outside of the World of Darkness, and that is a testament to, I think, you as a orator, you as a entertainer, and you as an intellectual, to be honest, because they are so engaging. And even though the videos have gotten longer and longer over time, you still stay hooked the entire time because your content is that good. So I suppose my first question for you would be, what got you into all of this? What made you decide, like, okay, I'm going to get in front of a camera, I'm going to record videos? What got you into the whole YouTube content creator game?
Well, depression.
That's a really good reason, yes.
No, I mean, I was in school at a time when it was not entirely clear that YouTube was going to be the next, like, the way that people get their entertainment now, like online media. It was most people were still watching television but also watching YouTube videos. And I was like, I remember being like back in middle school, like, oh, this YouTube thing is going to be big and I want to do it. And then I didn't. I had a
Right?
phase in high school where I did had like a gaming channel with a friend of mine. Then I narrated. I don't know if anyone knows about the Civ Battle Royale. It's like a project where they have various AIs playing Civilization 5 against each other.
I've not heard of it,
Um,
but that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I basically took the did like an audio narration for that for a while, and then I started my main channel. Just because I was in a very bad spot in life, and I felt both extremely overworked and extremely bored, and I was trying to I was trying to like somehow write, but I knew that I had to do something else as well, and so I thought, you can't just be an author. That's not a career that you can actually sustainably do. You should find something that's more safe. But then I ended up doing YouTube.
Right. And
Yeah.
honestly, it's funny that you mentioned like no not knowing YouTube was going to be a big thing. I totally remember those days, and if I could go
Yeah, yeah,
back,
yeah.
I'd be like invest in Bitcoin and get into YouTube early because it has become the lifeblood of entertainment in a lot of ways. What has prevented you from taking that into TikTok or any of the like shorter form versions?
I I honestly I've never seen a short form video and then afterwards felt like I'd actually learned something substantive.
It's very rare.
I'd have
It's
yeah, I'd
very
maybe
rare.
had a laugh, right?
Yeah.
Some cooking channels do like very good cooking videos, but I'm a pretty decent cook, so I know a lot of the reasons why they do the things that they do in that 1 minute. Um, that ordinarily would make no sense to me. But that's not all content you can put into that 1 minute. I thought about doing shorts at some point. I just really don't like that. I want to. For a long time, I did very short form, like 10 to me, 10 minutes is short form because
Right.
I like digging really deep into things and going on a lot of tangents because I think that, like, I think that when you have a holistic understanding of something, and by holistic, I mean, like, not esoteric, but like, whole, um, it's much easier to remember it. And when you then connect all of that to other concepts in your life, it's much easier to remember that as well. And really, ultimately, what this channel is selfishly about is me going, huh, I'd like to learn a lot about this. And then I'm going to tell people about it because that's what helps me learn about this.
Yeah, so you dive into the research of it and then you find a way to present what you
Mhm,
found through your research. Do you
mhm.
script out your videos? Do you end up writing them out or do you just kind of bullet point things and then allow yourself to expand upon it?
No, I script them word for word, actually. I have a
Oh,
teleprompter.
really?
Yes, I got the teleprompter very recently, though. I think the first video I did with the teleprompter was the Changeling one. I used to still script out the videos word for word, and I had them like on a tablet. And I would have to. It was like just one sentence every time, and I would have to like bend down to look at the sentence, and then I would look at the camera and I would have forgotten the sentence and sort of ad lib it. But then sometimes I'd look at the sentence again and be like, oh shit, there was actually a very cool turn of phrase that I wanted to use, and I'd re-record it. It was a fucking mess. I did this for years. And at some point, someone was like, you know, you can just teleprompters are not insanely expensive. You can
Right.
just get one with your phone. And that's been a real game changer for me. I don't dread recording anymore.
I've seen technology coming out now too, or like apps, or they're doing it so that on your phone you can record on your phone, but it'll also have a teleprompter on your phone, so you can
Damn.
actually read the script while looking at the camera. And it's just amazing how
Yeah.
far we've come. I mean, I just
Yeah.
being a kid of the '80s, I would never have imagined we would be at the level we are now. That we are basically running and creating our own TV stations or programs, and that we
Yeah.
can it's absolutely insane to me.
People talk about how like, oh, we didn't get like hoverboards and shit. It's like, but yeah, we also got a lot of shit that no one ever dreamed of back then.
We have AI, we have
Yeah.
VR, like we have so many things that are just far and beyond anything we could have even expected. Sure, we don't have hoverboards, but we're pretty close. I mean, we've gotten some things that are pretty close. And it's absolutely incredible just how far technology has come, and
Mm.
even staying up to date on it is near impossible for
It's
me. I
hard.
can't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
say. Uh, so let's talk about TTRPGs in
Yeah.
general before we get into World of Darkness. When did you first discover TTRPGs, and did you have any preconceived notions about them before you actually dove in and started playing?
I feel like I've always played TTRPGs, because I think in many ways they're like play pretend, but for adults, like it's more structured, it's more sophisticated. Um, I think the first time I encountered the concept of TTRPGs, I must have been like 11 or 12. I grew up in a boys' home in my teenage years. I was put in a boys' home when I was 11. Uh, when I was 11? Yes, when I was 11, I believe. Yes. And in there, somebody came out. Was like, "Oh, you can do like this storytelling type game," and he ran like a solo session for me. And this is my very first RPG session. It's like I have my character, I have the GM. This is a one-on-one session. We're sitting in the living room of the boys' home, and he's like, "Okay, and you're asleep in the tavern, and you hear someone rummaging through your shit. What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm fucking tired, dude. I'm gonna just turn around." And so the next day, all your shit is gone, and now you're poor. Congratulations, that was your first game.
There's consequences
Yeah.
immediately. So what was
And
your
then
Oh, go ahead, please.
yeah, and then in that boys' home group, they were trying to do a Dungeons and Dragons group, but I wasn't old enough to play because I wasn't 14 yet. And then a few years later, when I was 14, an intern she made this is a. Are you familiar with the Dark Eye, das schwarze Auge?
I can't say I am, no.
It's basically it's the German version of D&D because they didn't
Okay.
do a translation for D&D until way late. And so Germans were like, "Okay, we're gonna make this, but it's gonna be extremely complicated." Yeah, and that's basically the first role-playing game campaign I was properly in.
So what encouraged you, or what appealed to you about it that you wanted to keep pursuing it? Was it because it was a good social activity to connect to others, or did you find yourself actually enjoying the process of
Oh, yeah.
engaging?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's a great social activity, don't get me wrong. I love socializing, I love people, I love being, like, around people. But I stories have always been my thing. Like I'm mainly I think of myself as an author. So I love stories, I love characters, and I love just worlds. And something that has always really appealed to me about RPGs is that I mean I like being the playing games, being a big hero, but these sorts of games really lend themselves to much more personal stories that are much more character driven. Like I've saved the universe. I've done that a few times now. I don't really care about that as much as I care about like something that matters to like me and the characters that I'm interacting with. I like being other people. I like, yeah, just exploring fantastical places. And one of the main things about it, I think, that I like, even as someone who runs games, is that I don't have to, it's not very difficult to set up. I don't need a huge budget and special effects. I can just describe the thing and then it's in your head.
Yeah, I think that there is this unrealistic standard that is being set now through streamed games and through like Critical Role or Dimension 20, where they have these massive tables with all of these props and figurines, and anything less than that I think often gets viewed, especially by newer players, as less than or not up to standard. But really, you don't need much. You don't even realistically need a system or rules, as long as you understand that collaborative storytelling
Yeah.
improvisational craft of just I don't know if you had choose your own adventure books when you were a kid, where you would
I
read
did.
and then
Yeah.
it
I
would
love
split.
those.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved those. So it's one of those things that you really don't need a huge budget. You don't need a lot of props, as long as you are creative and you have people who like to play. And by play, I mean, collaboratively storytell. You can do it anywhere, anytime, for any length of time.
I'm at a role playing game society every Wednesday. And I remember one time a new player whose first session that was. After the session, he came up to me and was like, "Wow, if you just practice a bit more, you could be just like Matt Mercer." And I'm like, "Dude, I love Matt Mercer. I
For
think he's
sure,
great,
for
but
sure.
I don't want to do the thing he does. I
Right.
have a different style." Yeah, I mean, I obviously I would love to have a big room with a big sort of table to play games
Who
in, but that's
wouldn't?
just not feasible for
No.
most people most of the time.
No, you need to
And
have
it's
a
also
production budget for that.
yeah, exactly. I also don't really like figurines and physics. I'm very virtual and digital. I like me my virtual assets.
So have you worked with any virtual tabletops before, like
Yes.
Roll20, and which is your favorite of those?
Well, I haven't worked with them in many years.
Okay,
I think mainly I have worked with Roll20. I think Foundry I used like once or twice, but as a player. I don't see. I like in person play much more than I like
for
online
sure.
play. I don't really like online play at all. I did it too much during the pandemic, I think.
It
Um,
you can overdose on it pretty
yeah,
easily. That's
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. That's for sure. And you don't get the
Uh,
same experience when you're not in person.
yeah. But at the same time, I like the virtual assets. So I like my music and all that. I wish I could have like a table. It's like a touch screen and it's like a virtual tabletop, but I can do it with people in the room. That would be cool. I would be fond of that.
I remember I played in a game where they had a huge either television or monitor inset into the table where they would bring maps
Yeah.
up on it and then they'd put the
Ah,
minis on the map. It was very cool. It must have been super expensive to do, but it was
yeah.
so cool the way they did it. And yeah, absolutely.
That's a life goal right there. That's a
So, what do you remember about your first ever character in a TTRPG, and what can you tell me about it? Like, what class or what race or basic concept of the character?
I so there were two actually. There was one that was a pre-gen, but I don't really count him. Although the next one was rather similar. The dark eye character. It was an assassin. I think the class was thief, but we built it a bit different. I was of the Mahandistani culture, which is sort of like Middle Eastern Turkish influence.
Okay.
That was the vibe that I was going for with the character. Fuck, what was his name? Um, I remember the name of the pre-gen. It was Crotanos. But what was the name of the fucking of my very first self-built character? I don't even remember. And I use that name in many, many places. This is shame. I have brought shame upon myself.
It's okay.
He
I
was
Oh, I only remember my class of my first character. I don't remember the name of it either, so it's not. I can't say I'm surprised.
yeah. I mean, he was a bit of a murder hobo. He was not like when outside of he was a murder hobo when he knew he could get away with it. Like I mean, it was I was like 14, right? I tried to be charismatic with people. I tried to like solve things by talking, but the second things didn't go my way, and the second and I thought of this as like being part of the character. The second things didn't go his way, or the second it was like more convenient for him to
Right.
just kill someone. I remember there was we encountered a guy on a road with like a cart, and we kind of wanted that cart. And we talked to him, we helped him repair the cart because it was stuck. And I was talking to him, I was like getting information out of him that we needed for the story. And then when he was basically done, I like looked up and down the road and I just killed him. And then
Might
I
as
ate
well. You
his
got
body
what
with
you
a
needed out of
string.
the
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. I mean, he was a complete psychopath, that character was. I like playing characters like that. I also like playing a lot of other characters. Nice characters. Oh my god. Can you believe we built whole games where we can just be nice, but also do it with magic?
Right?
That rules.
That's so awesome. You can
Yeah.
be good and powerful at the same time.
Ah,
So when did the World of Darkness come across your way? When were you first exposed to it? Had you heard about it in advance? And when did you really kind of dip your toe into that pool?
this would have been. I would have first heard about the World of Darkness like probably around early 2010s.
Oh, okay.
I remember at one point being on the World of Darkness wiki and being like, "Wow, what the fuck? This is a lot. This is so much
So
just stuff.
much. So
I'm
much.
going to go play Eve Online." Um, and then
It's
in
very
2020,
intimidating at first,
it is
especially if you get into it
holy,
later on. It's so
oh my
intimidating
god,
because of
yeah,
all of the source material and the crazy love that people have for it. And
yeah.
it's a rabbit hole that if you're not looking for that, can be very, very intimidating at first.
Yeah. And I eventually, where I live now, I joined like the role playing society years into having lived here. And I actually got an opportunity to play Vampire the Masquerade. It was Vampire the Masquerade 20th edition, but I think the GM was saying that we're playing with 5th edition lore, but we're playing 20th edition. And I had like a pre-made character, which was like a Nosferatu actor. um, it was very cool. It was such a I think that was really I think the skill of that GM really is what made me interested, because it was such a he ran such an excellent mystery adventure. It's like, oh, there's this this band, and at the concerts of this band, people kill each other all the time. Like, it always escalates, and this is weird. And we need you to find out what this is, because this might be a masquerade breach. And it was such a well structured like investigation, even incorporating all of the players that were there. Where ultimately, we discovered that it was like a fae who was like pumping them full of glamour, and that made people explode in like very into violence. It was the death metal band. And ultimately we told the fair, like, hey, stop doing this. And it was like, okay, we'll just yeah, they'll just do like love ballads now. And then people started having orgies instead, which is much better.
Hey, it,
Yeah.
it's less painful. I won't say
Yeah.
it's not painful, but it's less painful. Uh,
Yeah.
what
And
was?
that
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry, I have a tendency to, like, you
go
know how
go,
long I've been doing
please, absolutely. People are here to hear you talk, not me. They hear me all the time.
that. Yeah, and that was in 2019. And then some of your viewers might remember this. A thing happened in the world,
Yes.
and it all stopped. Everything stopped for a couple years, and this in like 2020. I just as a on a hunch, I was like, okay. Sorry, I'm coming off a nasty cold. Um, uh, I was like, okay, I have a lot of time on my hands now. I'm just gonna read this. I'm gonna read this wiki, and then I'm gonna read these books, and that's how I got into World of Darkness. And then at some point, I was like, okay, I spent the last 2 years of my life essentially learning a lot about like Vampire the Masquerade specifically, but also the other World of Darkness properties. Why did I do this?
To make the
Uh,
videos we love so
yeah.
much now, obviously.
I woke up one morning, it'd be like, okay, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this for myself. I'm gonna do a video all about all the Vampire the Masquerade clans. No one's gonna watch it. It's gonna be super fucking long. But I feel I'm in like a sort of depressed state. I need to do something. I need to work on something that I'm really passionate about. So I'm gonna do this. And then I did that, and nobody watched it. And then a couple months later, I was actually in Cologne visiting a high school friend of mine, and suddenly the video just exploded. I was like, okay, I guess I can do more of this.
Well, it's interesting too because you came into a time in World of Darkness where it was a very uncertain period. There was
Mhm.
obviously the Chronicles going. Old World of Darkness had been long since dead and buried by that point. And, you know, fifth edition hadn't even become a rumor yet. So it was a very odd point in the game. I like to call it the dark period of the game, but we'll talk about Chronicles in a bit. I think that, you know, it wasn't necessarily on the tip of people's tongues. It was this weird kind of old game that I think a lot of people had passed on or forgotten about, except for a few diehards. And then it did start to pick up steam with fifth edition coming out in like 2018, 2019. And I think that a lot of people are going back now and looking at the old stuff, especially since this big gamer boom that was the pandemic, you
Oh
know,
yes,
created a
oh
lot of new
yes,
fans.
yeah. Oh, I'm very happy about the pandemic bringing a lot of people into the hobby. I like that. I like
Absolutely.
that. We get like 50 people every week at the Role Playing Game Society at uni. It's crazy. I mean,
That's
most of
incredible.
them are not students, but
People come by though. People are getting
yeah,
into it
yeah,
and
yeah.
finding outlets for it. So that's
It's
amazing.
pretty nice. Yeah.
That is amazing. What clans And we can go through each of the splats, but what clans were you most drawn to in Vampire the Masquerade? Which ones did you like the most or find the most appealing and engaging of the clans?
Well, I've always seen myself primarily as a toreador, because I'm an artist, and I feel like I'm kind of a charisma build
I would agree
as a
with that.
guy.
I would
I'm
agree
a
with that.
charisma build. That's like my main forte. That's usually when you do the like, oh, which Vampire the Masquerade clan are you tests. That's usually what comes out. Sometimes I also get Bruja or Ventru. Which is strange that it would be specifically those two because they're so
They're so diametrically
yeah,
opposing. Yeah.
yeah, and Gangrel. I like the Gangrel a lot, because they're this. I like the sort of the country aesthetic. You know, the cowboys.
Yeah,
I really
absolutely.
like that shit, and
Absolutely.
they're very you know I'm gonna mind my own business type deal. I do like the Gangrel, but Toreador is always my main thing. Also because I like the Toreador. I love humanity. I'm a big humanity guy.
And they're really
It's
good at playing that humanity game. I mean, honestly,
Yes, yes,
other than
yes.
Gangrel, all those clans that you mentioned are all about playing the humanity game, whether it's,
Yeah,
the rebellious side of humanity, the order side of humanity, or the kind of social game in the game itself of playing
yeah,
politics and playing romance and everything like that that the Toreador excel at. So yeah, it is. Those are clans that I would say are very much embedded in humanity, and playing the humanity aspect of them is very, very fun.
yeah.
So, as I mentioned before, we received a whole bunch of questions for you in advance. So I'm going to be throwing them in and interspersing them at points throughout this entire conversation. But the first one I want to start out with comes from Great Man, who says, asking you how you got into World of Darkness is rather generic. What keeps you interested, and how do you keep enthusiastic about it?
Um, World of Darkness has ruined urban fantasy for me completely. I feel like I mean I know it's like oh it's not urban fantasy, it's like gothic punk, whatever the fuck.
I don't see why it's not urban fantasy
Yeah.
with changeling and mage and,
I feel like it is the ultimate setting in that direction. And I've always liked this genre because I'm a big enthusiast of like hidden spaces. I like cities. I'm a big cities guy. And I've always I you know when you sometimes you go down a road and you wander like under the bridge where the space station, the train station is above it, there's just a door. What
what is
is
that
that
door
door?
for? What's it
Yeah,
for? Why is it
exactly,
there?
exactly, exactly. There's so like even in my own apartment building, which is pretty large, there's like sections of the basement where I'm like, what is it? What is here? I can't go here. What is here?
I love
Um,
that you're bringing this up because when I got into World of, I can't not see it now. Like when I moved to Florida, to the city that I'm in, the city that our game takes place in, I immediately had a World of Darkness setting built as I'm driving around, as I'm walking downtown, as I'm exploring. I can't help but be like, yep, that's a Toreador Haven.
yes,
That's, I
yes,
could tell who's in power. I almost could tell the story in my head, and I can't escape it. Like wherever
yeah,
I go, whatever I do, I'm like, yeah, werewolves probably live over there, and that's probably an Elysium, and it becomes innate once you've gotten into
yeah.
it enough.
You develop like a sixth sense for it. And with
Absolutely.
World of Darkness specifically, I feel like I mean it's international. It's like it's everywhere. It's very sort of it's very small scale in its stories, which there's like something to be found everywhere you look. You can develop every city as a like a World of Darkness city, and
Mhm.
also there's so much. Pretty much every time I look into World of Darkness, I learn something new.
Yeah,
And I like I mean I don't want to like toot my own horn, but I'm probably one of the people in the world that know the most about this setting.
I would
And
agree with that.
every single time I learn something new that I had no idea about.
Well, and
Because it's
now with new
so
material coming out, they're expanding
yes,
upon it even more.
that too, that too. It's so fascinating. And there's also it's I like the it's very it has a lot of it's very like streamlined in each game line for like the vibe that you're going with, but you have the option always to go completely crazy by entering the mage space. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So
changing
I
mage and
like that.
changeling, I feel
Yeah,
like can
yeah,
really just
yeah.
expand upon so much.
Yeah. I had a recently in a chronicle that I ran in London, I had he was a vampire, but he was a vampire of one of the guy. He was one of the guys who had worked with Alan Turing. That was one of my NPCs, and he had this computer that could talk to like ghosts, and that really be. I even managed to like weave that into the vibe of vampire. I feel like because it's difficult to do like virtual adept shit and all that. Like, oh,
Right.
this is just a Matrix guy now.
Right.
But yeah, he had access to the sort of sorceress aspect of even though he was a vampire.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So another question Great Man asks, he submitted several, is what is one thing from previous editions you would bring into fifth edition and why? So I don't know which edition you tend to go towards, whether it's 20th anniversary,
I
fifth
always
edition,
play fifth,
fifth.
honestly.
Okay, yeah, same with me.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is
Unless it's mage, obviously, because there is no mage fifth.
yet?
Yeah, yet.
But right. What is something you'd like that you would bring in from previous editions, based off of all of the research that you've done, that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily exist in fifth edition, and why would you want that specifically?
Anything you want, really. I have to be entirely honest. I'm not good at like telling the difference between this is like 20th law and this is 5th edition law. To me, it's all just the law, and like
Right.
any given aspect of it may or may not be real and true. Because a lot of it is apocryphal. A lot of it is, I mean, a lot of it is like, oh yeah, my elder told me this.
It's like rumors and basic,
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's
It's like,
nothing
why did
set
your elder tell
concrete.
you this? Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right. And
So
it could be a
anything that you want,
manipulation.
really. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anything that you want. That's what I would say to that.
What about mechanically? Is there anything mechanically that you found or, researched in the older editions that you'd like to see make an appearance in the new fifth edition?
Um, I mean, I've already talked about like how with Werewolf they kind of nerfed the like Xenos and all that in a way that I don't really love. I really think for me personally, fifth edition mechanically works in a way that I think makes the most sense for the kinds of games that I enjoy running. So mechanically, I think it's like a step forward.
Hmm.
Aside from like the really just the zip archiving of the disciplines into like
Yes, where they
away
took
from their
away
identities.
the
Yeah.
individuality of the disciplines. You
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
yeah.
that some in your video, which I really
Yeah.
agreed with wholeheartedly, is that,
Yeah.
demontation being its own discipline was such a beautiful thing for Malkavians. And
Exactly.
now it's this amalgam with Ventru powers, and it does make it a little bit more less unique for each to play
Yeah.
any specific
Yeah.
clan. But I do think that what they did well is they streamlined everything really nicely, so that
Yeah.
this new generation of players who don't know the old mechanics, and D&D did the same thing. A lot of these fifth editions of whatever gaming system that come out, they're clearly like, we're hooking new people. Like, we're giving the content that the old people like, but we're hooking new players. And the best way
Yeah.
to do that is to not make it rules complicated, not too crunchy. And so that is something that I appreciate from them. Who is your favorite character from World of Darkness lore in general, and why? Also from Great Man.
Oh my god. Um, that shit.
You can name a few if you
I'm
can't pick
yeah,
just one.
I'm bad with like favoriting anything. I usually when you say what is your favorite this, it's I have like a whole list. Um, a lot of this, I really like this, like the former Ventru Prince of Amsterdam, Johannes Kastelein, who was like, it's a very obscure character. I think he's like mentioned offhand in the Victorian vampire book
Love that
about
book. I
London.
love that book.
Yeah. He basically what he was asked to become a Justicar, and he was like, "Nah, I'm good, thank you." And he's also in like the Princes of Darkness mod for Crusader Kings 3, which I enjoy playing. I like him mainly because I developed him into like my own NPC so much that he's just this incredibly powerful Vantru that like in the times when the Camarilla is sort of tipping over, is even though he's extremely old, very like, oh. Yeah, we actually do need to modernize. I'm going to buy up technology firms. I'm going to learn about technology and how it works. And he just is the most bro-looking motherfucker you can possibly imagine.
Even though
Yeah.
we pre-taped this interview, I'm like projecting into the future the number of people who are typing into the wiki right now, looking this character up as you answer that question is going to be
I
off the
don't know.
charts because we got lore
He
junkies in this community who are going to want to
yeah.
know all about it.
He might be on the wiki. I'm not sure. I know that his child, I think it's Arjan Voorhees. I'm pretty sure that's the name of his child, who became the Prince of Amsterdam after that, and he may still be the Prince of Amsterdam. I'm pretty sure that in some official Gehenna scenario, he gets killed by Hakim for like insulting him or something.
Oh,
It's
jeez.
yeah.
So another question from Great Man: what is your favorite World of Darkness splat and
Oh,
why?
actually, sorry, I have
Oh
one
yeah,
more
no,
addition.
let's do it.
I now you, but I only it only occurred to me while you asked the question. Fucking his what's his name? Moncala. Uh,
Yes.
I like him. I like him a lot. He was such a he was such a powerful villain.
Mm-hmm.
He was I loved him. And by extension, Tally, his like sort of right hand man.
Yep. Yep.
I read
Absolutely.
the novels recently, so I'm very up to date on that.
I love that we can still find that information too, like that all the
Yeah,
old books that they've been digitized because the fan base is still so strong. So you can find them in Storyteller's Vault or Drive Through RPG. That we can still find that old material is so good because one of my biggest regrets is not having the money when I discovered the hobby to buy all the books
yeah,
so that I can get, still get access to them now is so fantastic because I'm making up for lost time and actually getting to dive back into stuff that I
yeah,
couldn't get
yeah.
access to at the time. But what is your favorite World of Darkness splat and why of all of them? So Changeling, Vampire, Werewolf, what's your favorite? Or your top, we'll say top two or three.
I think they all have something going for them. It really depends on my mood. I think maybe I Changeling might be my favorite conceptually because
Okay.
it's so like diverse and crazy. But I think the one that I enjoy playing the most still might be. I reckon it might become Werewolf. I've not actually played as much Werewolf as I would have liked. Is the werewolf has like a very nice intersection of like being something that people understand. People know what a werewolf is
Right,
like, right?
right,
Like, oh, you're some sort of like fairy being, or you have the power of your mind can alter reality. It's like, okay, it's a bit abstract. But a werewolf with magic powers, that's a werewolf with magic powers.
right.
But you still have this like with the Umbra and all that, this level of like high magic essentially that vampire, for instance, doesn't really have. Um, so I figure that maybe yeah, I can't really give a definitive answer to this question actually.
For sure. No, I was a vampire diehard for 20 something years. I wouldn't even look at some of the other splats. I'd incorporate them in my storytelling, but I wouldn't play in any of them.
Yeah.
And then 5th edition Werewolf came out, and I knew our community had a desire for it, so I looked into it. And it is quickly climbing the charts as one of my favorite games. Now, I agree with you about the Krynos form rules. We actually
Yeah.
reworked some of those to make them better and more, accessible. But yeah, I think that Vampire is still always going to be number one with a bullet in my heart. It's how I found the game. It's what I've spent so much time and effort into. But the others are starting to take hold. So when you say Changeling, do you prefer the Dreaming or the Lost from Chronicles?
I am not a Chronicles guy. I am not a Chronicles guy at all. I prefer the Dreaming. Yeah, I mean, this actually this is how Chronicles lost me. I was like, oh, a friend of mine was like, oh, you should look into Changeling. I looked into Changeling. I looked into Changeling the Lost, not knowing at the time about the difference between Chronicles and World of Darkness. And it's like, oh, you can do like, oh, and then this and that, and the fucking the hedge, and you're like an abducted child. And he looked at me like I was speaking Chinese to him. What are you talking about? It's like, oh, so it's Changeling the Lost. So no, Changeling the Dreaming. It's a completely different thing.
Oh, completely different.
Yeah,
Completely different.
I'm a World of Darkness guy. I mean, I'm sure that like Chronicles of Darkness has a lot of cool stuff in it. I mean, I know for I changing the Lost is kind of cool.
I love
Um,
Changeling the Lost. That's
yeah.
the only good takeaway I can take from Chronicles of Darkness, and I hope they incorporate a lot of those elements into fifth edition Changeling should it ever come out.
Mhm.
Because I do think it is better with the overall setting than the Dreaming was. The Dreaming was such a departure from the stage they had set with
Mhm.
vampire, with werewolf, and then there's Changeling, which is almost like too fantastical for me for my World of Darkness game. But then the Lost really darkened it and made
Yeah.
it gritty and scary. Honestly, it made it horror, which is what I liked about it, and would love to see them incorporate a lot of into a fifth edition Changeling if they were ever to release it. But yeah, okay. So finally, conversely, what is your least favorite splat and why? Also from Great Man.
I don't. None of them really come to mind as like I'm thinking about all of them. Like all of them have something good about them that I like. Maybe I guess Hunter because I don't. It just doesn't appeal to me as much personally. But I think Hunter is still really extremely cool.
I think it's
And
gotten better for sure in fifth
yeah,
edition
yeah.
than it
Oh
was in the
yes,
old
yes,
editions. Because even in your video, the way your analysis between the older editions of Hunter and
yeah,
fifth edition Hunter, again, I feel like they made it more accessible. Something about they're doing with fifth edition is making all of the pieces of the world feel like they could fit together. Which in the
yeah,
older editions, obviously there was no intention for them to be able to cross over as much as it feels like there is in fifth edition. And the hunters in fifth edition just feel more grounded to me
yeah, yeah. I
than they
really
were
like the
before.
groundedness aspect of that. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely, it is like the supernatural role playing game. It's like you said in
yeah.
your video. It's like if you want to play supernatural, here you go. Like this is as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, my partners are trying to get me to rewatch all of Supernatural again with them, and I'm like, no, this is not gonna happen. I'm
It's
sorry.
too much. It's just
Yeah,
too
I'm
much.
not doing it.
And they're making more from what I've heard. They're
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
back
yeah,
again. So it's
yeah.
just like, oh god, how far can you go with this?
Mm.
So Double Magus asks, are there any subsplats from Chronicles or Old World of Darkness that you would like to see brought over? Like Immortals, Psychics, Changing Breeds, any of the other stuff from the older editions that you'd like to see them renew or bring back?
It is my philosophy that you can just do that yourself if you want it.
That's fair.
Um,
Yeah.
I'd like to them for them to like do. You know what? Actually, for Quajian. I'd be
Okay.
very interested in because I know nothing about Quajian. I'm really I understand like the basics of what a Quajian is and what they do and how they're made, but that's like basically it.
Yeah, so
um
Kindred of the East you'd like to see
yeah.
possibly
Yeah, yeah,
updated
exactly.
or
Because
modernized.
I know there's like a fan project about Kindred of the East that made them like just better. Um so I'd be interested in seeing that happening
Okay.
and like a cool and accessible because I feel like I've looked at Kindred of the East and it's like this is I maybe one day, but right now this is a bit impenetrable to me.
So Maeve asks, which of the previous splats do you think shouldn't be brought into fifth edition and why? What's one of the older splats that you just think they should stay away from altogether that they have not brought out yet? I know some that are on the tip of people's tongues are demon or mummy, just because those were so immense in the old rendition, but I would have said the same thing about Hunter, and the way they did Hunter made it more grounded and accessible. So I don't know, but what about you? Are there any of the older material that you think should not be brought back?
Um I'm if I say the word of the game, I'm pretty sure that you might get it at problems with Twitch. But there's one particular game line that they did only one book of, and it is named after a slur that I think they shouldn't bring back. Otherwise, I'm pro like bring back whatever they think is cool. Even like Demon and Mummy. I actually think Demon and Mummy are they're cool. They are very large, but they are cool. I'd like to see maybe. even something new, I'd like to see maybe Angel.
That
Angel
would
the
be a cool one.
Salvation.
That would be a
That would be
cool
a
one.
that would be a
If they had
really
some
cool
sort of
thing.
celestial tie-in where it's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
all bad guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually do think that that might be a very, very cool thing for them to do. So Mimic asks, there is speculation that Mage will be next to be released yet. We saw Hunter released in between VTM and WTA. If Mage isn't next, what would be a logical jump? So they just released Werewolf, and they're still releasing supplements for Vampire and Hunter and Werewolf. But what do you think is the next splat they should drop? Are they going to keep with the trend
They
of
sh-
big splat, smaller splat, big splat, smaller splat? Like, what do you think is the next logical book that should come out?
I'm not sure I'm entirely qualified to answer this question. I mean, so the thing about Mage, them putting out Mage next is sort of I mean, they're also still putting out Mage books for 20th edition
Right.
at the same time. So I'm not sure if they would do it. I would, of course, love to see if they did Wraith. That would be a
That
cool
was
thing.
my pick. Was I
Yeah,
think they should do Wraith next because I think some
because
of the mechanics of Wraith could tie into Mage really nicely.
yes, and also, I think the themes of like the way that it's very like sort of drama focused and like mental health focused and all that. I think that it's thematically it fits into the things that we now enjoy as a culture, and so many theater kids have joined
Oh yeah,
the role playing space. So that
absolutely.
really, I think they should do Wraith next.
I think Wraith would be a really good pick. And one thing that I've noticed, and I know my followers are sick of hearing this by now, but I think that the way they've released the books and the splats in fifth edition have been very purposeful. They started with Vampire because Vampire's a lot of people's introduction. It's a really good starting point for World of Darkness. And then going to Hunter was an interesting choice. But as I was reading through the various books they were releasing, I could tell that they were mechanically getting people used to what was coming next with whatever
Mhm.
book they released. So a lot of the mechanics that they transitioned to in Hunter from Vampire would end up almost being test plays for Werewolf. So they did Vampire, Hunter, Werewolf, which I think Werewolf is test playing a lot of mechanics for Mage, but could also be doing it for Wraith with the concept of the Umbro, with the concept of crossing over and gifts and rights and everything like that. So I think Wraith would be an excellent bridge to Mage
Yeah.
because they could try some things in Wraith that if they don't work out, they can fix before releasing Mage. Um,
I mean, Mage is obviously like the most complicated one out of all of them.
yes, it
I
is.
mean, the what 800-page core book type
Yeah, yeah,
combination, like
with very light mechanics too. Like
yeah,
if you actually think about it, it's complex, but the mechanics weren't very defined. They
yeah,
left
yeah.
it a
It's
lot up to the imagination, and that would
yeah.
be hard to pull off in fifth edition, where they've really like kind of pared things down a lot. You can't just be like, well, you can do whatever you want. Like
I
you have to have
struggle.
limitations.
I struggle to think how they will do it in a way that won't make Mage kind of bad. I have to be honest. Mage
Yeah,
is. I feel like Mage is about the. I think in like the Alpha Busa video, they say like, "Oh, that's the deep end of the pool."
right.
Mage is the deep end of the pool. I hadn't thought about that release, the purposeful release schedule like that though. That's actually now that you say it, I kind of see it.
You see what they're doing because they
Yeah,
they had vampire and then they changed some things for hunter, but hunter was
yeah,
a really good test play for some new mechanic introductions that they would end up expanding upon in werewolf. And
yeah,
werewolf with the gifts and rights system, that is screaming mage. It's
yeah,
screaming mage the way they're doing it. And so I do feel like they have had a course plotted out of like, okay, if we do this one, then it'll be a good setup or a warm up for what's after it. And it
yeah,
has been, it's felt very, very purposeful. Whether it is or isn't, I feel like it is because it's worked out that way very, very nicely. But I do think Wraith or Changeling could be a really good bridge between Werewolf and Mage. Because Mage, you're right, that's the
yeah,
deep end of the pool. They
yeah.
really have to make sure they've got it down really well. Because another thing about 5th edition is it does seem balanced. In our chronicle, we are running all of the splats that have been released so far, and we've not seen any true power differentiations between the splats that couldn't
Hmm.
make them cross over like they did in all of the old editions. You could not run a werewolf, a hunter, and a vampire in the same setting because it's just absurd the differentiations between the systems. But
Yeah.
now it all does feel like they have a byline with the, desperation mechanic, the hunger mechanic, and the rage mechanic. All of those work and can work interchangeably with one another. So it'd be interesting to see what they're going to do for Wraith or Changeling or even Mage in sticking with that basic system concept.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious what happens there. Yeah, I obviously I don't know what goes on in their heads. So
No, yeah, no, not at all. But it's been cool to see that they do
yeah, yeah, yeah,
have a a standard they're going with that 5 dice, whether it's hunger, whether it's desperation, whether
yeah.
it's rage. It's
I like
set.
that too. I like the way that I like this like replacing dice in a dice pool thing.
Yes, absolutely.
I've been sort of messing around with developing my own system that's based on. I mean, I do this all the time. Game design is my hobby, but it's sort of based on the storyteller system. But there's nothing to do with World of Darkness. It's in space. It's like a sort of Star Trek type thing.
Oh, I love
But
that.
there also I do this like dice switching mechanic because I really like that.
It's so cool. It's just a cool way to represent either the descent into hunger or the building up of rage or like I love the concept of it. It has positives, but it can
Yeah.
also have dramatic negatives if not kept in check. And I do think that better personifies what they're trying to tell in the system versus
Yeah.
blood points and gnosis and all this kind of like massive pool mechanic that they had, almost like mana
Yeah.
points. Now it's
Yeah.
like, okay, it's getting worse or it's getting better and it fluctuates, and I just think that's
There's
so
an element of uncertainty to it as
mhm.
well that really I think represents that it's an uncertain world.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's something that this system, World of Darkness in general, I feel like has encompassed better than most. I feel
Yeah.
like D&D, yes, there's some randomity with the D20 system of like you can get a 1 or you can get a 20, like and
It's
anything
so
in between.
swingy.
But with Vampire, I feel like it is more fluid. It lends
Mhm.
itself to better storytelling in general. And I've always been a fan of the D10 system just in general. I love the way they do it. And it's so easy to teach.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so you touched on this a little bit before, but Maeve asks, "What is your general opinion of the Chronicles of Darkness? So Vampire the Requiem, Changeling the Lost, Hunter the Vigil, etc. And what would be your reasoning for that said opinion?"
I think it's bizarre that it exists. I I mean I kind of understand why they did it. And the werewolf video did goes into this a little bit.
It does.
I it's to me it's just a very big sort of question mark as to why did you do this? Couldn't you have done something else? I mean, I get maybe what you were thinking, but it's I'm not really sure. I don't really I mean I'm glad that some people enjoy Chronicles of Darkness
Yeah.
and they enjoy it more than like World of Darkness and like more power to you. I you know everyone should be playing what they enjoy. It's just not for me really. I mean, I say this now, maybe in a couple of years when I'm strapped for content, I'm like, oh
I just as someone who was sold on the World of Darkness for now 25 years easily, it was really hard for me to embrace a complete reset to the lore, but not
yeah,
not completely, because like you said in your video, like they still have Ventru, they still have Toreador, like they're keeping bits and pieces of it, but they're getting rid of the mythos, they're getting rid of the politics, they're getting rid of what could be a doctorate in World of Darkness history, and the fact that they had
it's
originally branded it World of Darkness made me so angry because I'm like, this
It's
is
such an
not it.
oversight. It's such an incredible oversight. Like, why? Who looked at this and was like, "That's we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do." I also, I just, it's sometimes I struggle when when things have similar when I struggle differentiating concepts that are very similar to each other. And this also includes concepts that are the opposite of each other. Because in
Hmm.
my mind, when something is the opposite, two things that are the opposite of each other, they're very similar
Yeah,
because they're two sides of the same metal. Um, and to have to have a Camarilla in this that has literally zero thematic, temporal, legal overlap with the Camarilla in World of Darkness is it's so bizarre to me. Like, why did you do this?
I think some of the best takeaways, the only takeaways I believe we can take from Chronicles of Darkness, is that they did get some cool mechanical things
Yeah.
that we have adopted since in fifth
Yes.
edition. Like we did, the system learned a lot from the Chronicles experience. The problem is the Chronicles experience, I feel like, turned off a lot of people. People were very passionate about World of Darkness. They had invested so much time and money and effort into it. Kind of like fourth edition D&D too. It's like you're going to take this, you're going to keep the name, but you're basically going to change so much about how the game is played. You're going to throw us for this loop and then expect us to like basically reinvest all of the money that we've already invested. And I get it, it's a
Yeah.
business, it's a corporation, they need to make money, but it just the fourth edition plague in games of just trying, oh well, we're just gonna redo all of it as something
Yeah.
completely, it just ugh.
Yeah. No, I don't mess with that. I don't like that.
No, no. But I'm glad that they did discover some things that have made fifth edition much more streamlined and better. But yeah, it was
I
oh
mean, sometimes on these sort of expeditions, that does happen. So I guess
yeah.
there is a silver lining to
Yeah,
it.
there is. There is. Double Magus asks, items of a specifically supernatural beneficial bent seem to be the big boosts to most other groups, except for vampires. Is there a reason, you think, outside of the blood sorcerers, that you believe they didn't do much of that with vampires and give them more equivalent item to fetishes, wonders, etc.? So why don't they have the same high fantasy magical bend on vampires that they do with other splats? I think is kind of what the question is.
I mean, they're more integrated into human society. I feel like the focus is much more on like the personal drama, and I mean there are these items and artifacts in Vampire. They're just very
Yeah.
rare.
Oh, for sure.
So I feel like when they are there, they're like a very big deal. I'm sorry, I have to get another one of those cough candies,
No, please
otherwise.
do. Please do. Oh, it muted. Yeah, go. Yeah. So it's a tough thing because I feel like, and I'm just gonna keep talking until he gets back. I feel like it's one of those things where uh, Vampire is a very grounded game. Purposefully, they made Vampire very grounded and integrated into
Okay, you should be
believable.
able to hear me again
Yes, I hear
now.
you now.
Okay,
Yep,
very
yep.
good. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It
It's
just switched
okay.
microphones.
It happens. It happens. But yeah, I think that Vampire is supposed to be more grounded and believable, and so they took a lot of the high fantasy. They didn't want it to be D&D with a bunch of magic items and a bunch of spells and stuff like that. Like they
Right.
had a reason the Tremere were kind of a crossover between mage and vampire. They had lore to establish that, but really they didn't want it to be, oh, we have to go get our +1 great sword. We have to go get our, like they didn't want to have it be that high fantasy element that they
Yeah.
have, and it just didn't seem accessible to vampires. Vampires are
Yeah.
supposed to be themselves kind of supernatural, but also grounded.
Mhm. Yeah, I fully agree with that. There's really not much to add to it.
Yeah, yeah. Like mages and werewolves, yes, there's a lot more room for that kind of possibility based off of the cultural phenomena that they are, especially mages. But for vampires, vampires are just manipulating the machinations of human society. They
It's
don't
the
need
only splat
items.
that doesn't like go into an alternative dimension at any point.
Right,
If
right.
you don't count like fucking high level La Sombra doing abyss mysticism and all
Or
that.
crazy auspex that allows you to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
astral projection and everything like that. But yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it
yeah.
it is. It's just a grounded thing. So Sybil says, love the channel, even if you are an unmutual reality deviant, and they gave a heart with that one. If you had to rank what you think is the most sinister or malicious Pentex subsidiary, what would it be?
Hmm. Well, um, that's, I mean, I'm a systemic guy. I think, I think it's not necessarily productive to, and this is, we're getting into the politics now.
Yeah,
I don't think it's necessarily super productive to hone in on one of the subsidiaries that's particularly malicious. It's the system that ultimately is malicious.
right.
Um, that being said, any like frozen pizza company that distributes like pineapple on pizza, that's the one. That's the worst one.
I agree.
Yeah,
I have an entire rant about pineapple on pizza that people in my
yeah,
community are sick of hearing from me, but I believe it is an abomination, and
yeah,
it is the work of the worm to
yeah.
put pineapple on
Truly,
pizza.
truly, truly.
Absolutely. Uh, yeah, I think that Pentex as an organization is really the most sinister. It's not about the
Yeah, yeah.
subsidiaries, it's about the
Obviously,
fact
yeah,
that
yeah,
there's
yeah.
this puppet master that is just manipulating all, and it's so something we can understand, especially
Hmm.
as the age of information has opened our eyes to the fact that these companies get bought and sold and transferred and shifted around, that there are these nameless higher entities that control a little bit of everything, and they just trade them about like properties in Monopoly, and they take what they want from them, like trust funds and stuff. It's a whole thing, and that I think is what Pentex really is the evil of humans and what
Yeah.
they are capable of doing, even if you do throw some supernatural into it.
This
But
is sorry.
no, go, please.
This is why I like running them as a consulting firm much more so than like a
Mm-hmm.
puppet master firm, because then I feel like the focus is more on the evil of the capitalist class in
Yeah,
this sense.
yeah, absolutely. Jay says, I am a huge fan of your work. Your obscure vampire bloodlines video actually motivated me to run a trivia night for the community, which they did, and it was a big hit.
Damn.
Uh, if you could add in one thing to the World of Darkness canon, what would it be? So if you could, you know, whisper something into the ears of the writers or write something yourself that they were to throw into the canon, what would you want to see added?
I mean, I've mentioned this earlier. I really would like to see some like Angel the Salvation type stuff. I'd like to see not even just like the angels are just good guys, but
No,
for it to be like
could
a
be fallen
complex.
angels. I mean,
No, I'm not even talking about fallen angels, but like legitimately angels who were like good in the sense, but they're also like they're like robots more so
oh,
than
okay.
anything.
Okay, so like
And you could
sentries almost for them.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and you could have them. That would probably be like a very high level thing as well. You would have them maybe battling supernatural things, maybe carrying out missions that are mutually incompatible with each other as different aspects of the of heaven. And I don't even think like angels appear in various forms in various mythologies around the world.
yeah.
Doesn't even need to be like a Christian
Nope.
thing necessarily.
No,
That I think would be very interesting to illuminate the world of darkness from a side. I mean, Werewolf and Hunter already are kind of like, oh, you could be the good guys. But then it's like the good guys, but it's like hampered by the bureaucratic apparatus in which you have to operate. That
right.
I think maybe would be a cool addition.
I think that'd be very interesting, and it would remind me of like the imbued or the faithful hunter type, but taken to
Yeah,
the next level.
yeah,
Like that it isn't something that they chose. It's something that was they were born with, something that
yeah,
they were created for the purpose of. I think that, and it would expand upon the true faith mechanics, which I would love to see, because true
yeah,
faith is not as well defined as it used to be. It is very, very
yeah,
vague, and it's almost more of a mythos than a mechanic at this point in a lot of ways. So to see that expanded upon, I think would be very, very cool as well. And I agree with you that it doesn't have to be Christian angels. Like there are entities, angel like entities in various religions all around the world. So they wouldn't have to take a very hard religious bend on it. That
yeah.
would be a good one. Jay also asks, If you could sit with the creators of World of Darkness and ask one question about anything in the lore, what would it be? Are there any lingering questions you have about something that maybe they hinted to or something they
No,
did that you want further explanation on?
no. No, actually, no, not at all. Because anytime there's like, to me, when there's a question that's unanswered, that's hinted at, that's just them going, answer this question yourself. Explicitly give you the freedom to answer this question yourself.
Right.
And what if what they come up with is not as cool to me as what I would
As
have
what
come
you
up with?
could come up with. Yeah. So that's been a debate amongst the community that I've seen is that there are some people, and I'll include myself as one of them, that would like to see more meta plot fleshed out, would like more answers, more solidly defined things, stuff that's been hinted to or alluded to, but hasn't been fully detailed or laid out. For example, the murder of Hardestat or the corrupt the collapse of the pyramid. I want more information about that because it is setting altering events.
Yeah,
It alters the mechanics, it alters the the overall scope. The Bruja left the Camarilla. Like there's a lot to that. I just want to know what happened. So if I wanted to run that game where they're at that event, or if I just want to have NPCs who are knowledgeable about it, yes, I could make up my own. That's been a rule about all role playing games since role playing games were invented. It's like always a page they include in every core book of like, these are just suggestions, do what you want. But I'm a lore junkie. I want to know what happened, who was there, how did it go down, what was Theobald's motivation behind it. Like it's never fully answered, and yes, I could interpret it however I want, but as somebody who has watched this world be built for as long as it has been, an option for some solid answers would be very, very, very nice.
yeah.
Also, where are we going? Where is this story going? Because they definitely undid some of the way they ended the original World of Darkness run with the Gehenna book and all that.
Yeah, yeah,
Where are we going?
yeah.
What direction are we heading in? Because for me to run a chronicle that goes along with the meta plot, it'd be nice to at least have some insight into the direction we're going to. And I think they give a little bit, but it's very vague.
I am famously an anti meta plot
Okay.
person. I made whole videos about like I don't like meta plots.
Right.
But I think something that would be very cool for exactly to satisfy this specifically, I think they should do a new series of novels.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you've read the original Gehenna War novels, the
Yes. Oh
clan
yeah.
novels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I read them like 2 months ago. I okay, some of them are really really bad.
Of course.
Yeah, some of them are really good though, and what I really like about them is that they function in the same way that a lot of these like historically accurate movies. They feel like a real historical event because they have so many characters
Yeah.
and they have characters that do something monumental that appear for just one scene because they just happen to be that person who was in that time and that place that made that happen.
Yeah.
And that's how history really works. So that's something I really liked about those books. Yeah, and you mentioned I was like I too I had to I've been thinking about like why would I know that Theo Bell at the end of that series was getting a bit just like disillusioned with the Camarilla, but he was still like very loyal.
Yeah.
Uh, it was mainly because like his Justica was a dick. Like
Right.
he was just rude to him all the time.
Right.
Um, yeah, that's a. I think that maybe they should do like a series of novels or short
Absolutely.
stories or
Anything.
whatever.
Just anything that
Yeah,
would.
yeah,
And I love that of course you can use this or you can ignore it. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not a fan of lore gatekeeping. I do not
Mhm.
prefer that. But some of us just like to stick as true to what they've written as possible. I mean, one
Yeah,
of the big
yeah,
things that incentivized me about World of Darkness when I first started was that there was a story already written into it. You can tell your own story within that story. You can ignore their story entirely. That's always been an option. But
mhm,
I loved reading their writing. I loved seeing where their brains were at. I loved seeing the creative process they went through. It actually helped teach me to be a better storyteller was watching what they were doing and the twists and turns they were throwing into it. And so I am a big believer of like just tell the story, and it of course people can choose to use it or not use it. Like it, it doesn't have to affect anybody's chronicle
Yeah,
if they don't
yeah.
want it to. But I know I'd love to see more. I'd love
Having
to
the
see it.
option is always good. I
It's just
really
nice. It's another option. Yeah, because games like D&D, like yes, they have their settings, but also the game is kind of generic in that you can homebrew a setting. That's
yeah,
always been the case. That can
yeah.
still be used for vampire or werewolf or whatever as well. But yeah, I want to see the story continue. That's one of the things I loved about it was the meta plot and was the story and was this very filled out world that they've created.
I
And
think
yeah,
I think what the thing that really just put me off with the metaplot is that it was an apocalypse metaplot. I
yeah,
don't like apocalypse metaplots. I feel like now that we're past the apocalypse, maybe they can do the metaplot in a good way again, where it's
absolutely.
like more about the politics.
Right. And I think that they've set up a really cool thing in 5th edition in the meta plot where the old way is dying. So
Yeah.
the children have inherited the problems of the elders
Yes.
with no warning or preparation. The elders are just
Yeah.
like, well, I'm succumbing to the beckoning. Here you go. Bye. Or just disappearing overnight. And I love that story of like the thin bloods being the future. The younger generations are having to figure it out. That, the Sabbat, did they fail? Did they succeed? There's some left over. Like, I love all of that. And I'd love to see more detail into all of that, especially since World of Darkness is a lore heavy game. Most of the rule books and splats read like storybooks,
Yeah.
and I feel like they've been very nervous about getting into that element in 5th edition more than they have in any of the previous
Yeah.
editions. Like they're hinting at stuff, but they're not really telling us anything new, and it can be frustrating sometimes. Um, Jay asks, World of Darkness isn't foreign to outlandish and sometimes comical events and facts. What is the funniest World of Darkness trivia fact to you?
Hmm. Um this I struggle with this. I struggle with this sort of thing. I it's still I just conceptually the microwave thing. I it's that's one that I always it's not necessarily the funniest, but I like to bring it up because it's a funny way to illustrate how like paradigm works in Mage. I also just the steampunk people fighting Nazis in the Hollow Earth is pretty lit.
That is
That's really
pretty
funny,
cool. That is pretty
especially
cool.
because it's just one of the Hollow Earths. It's not the Hollow Earth.
Right.
So that really that can throw people when they're used to like this very noir vampire. Oh no, my heart, I am immortal. And then
Yeah.
it's like, by the way,
By the way, there's all this other shit that's
yeah,
happening too.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So to transition a little bit away from World of Darkness, but still keeping it more back to the channel and to content creation, Krazaz says, "Hi, big fan. I don't remember if I started with your political content or your World of Darkness content. The YouTube algorithm can be tricky when it comes to posting content of different topics on the same channel. Do you think the roots of political critique and activism present within the World of Darkness has enabled you to bridge those topics well in maintaining your audience?"
That's actually an interesting thought. That might be the reason. Because I was surprised. I and I'm still surprised if like about like, oh, they're still watching both of the things.
Yeah,
I've always taken an approach of I mean I've always done political content and non-political content, and my idea kind of is to I really don't want to be like one of those channels that only do political content. I think that's a slippery slope that eventually because you just need more content. Is also why I don't talk about current events.
right.
I don't do it because then it's all about talking about the latest thing and having a take on the latest thing, and I need some time to actually develop an opinion on this. I
Yeah.
need to look into this.
Well, and a lot of the
um,
pundits and a lot of the channels out there are extremely one sided. They already
yeah,
have their minds made up. And so if you tune into a specific brand of content or a specific creator, you're only getting a part of the story. You're only getting
Yeah.
a one perspective of the story, and so I think it is important
Yeah.
to find your own perspective on that kind of stuff.
And they're very dire too. I like the idea of we're going to talk about Shadowrun or World of Darkness or whatever topic I had in mind that day. And then occasionally we're also going to talk about politics because
Yeah.
I think that's a much more realistic engagement with how people like it. They engage with politics. They talk about it with people that they know.
Yeah.
They have like real conversations with real people.
Right. Well, and I think all of the that's one of the beauties of World of Darkness is how tied it in to our real world it is. They base a lot off of the political climate or off of certain historical events and how the World of Darkness played a part in it. And I think that exploring those topics is still kind of exploring the concept of the World of Darkness. Politics play a part in the World of Darkness, so the
Yeah.
political, they go hand in hand with one
Yes.
another, as do cultural differences, societal differences. Like all of these things are ever present in World of Darkness Chronicles. Like they
Yes.
can play a part on that. I try to make our St. Petersburg setting very, very close to the real St. Petersburg, and I try to educate people on what the area is like around here, the political climate is like around here. And we've got people from all over the world that play. So some people have never been to Florida, or they label it as part of the dirty South of the United States. And it's very interesting that we're in this like little liberal pocket of an otherwise very conservative area. So when I do describe it to people in game, or we have people who come visit once a year, we have an annual event where community members come and get together here, they're always surprised to see it firsthand
Yeah.
versus what they've heard about it or what they haven't
Yeah.
heard about it. And so I do think those things, that type of content does blend well because it is in our world. This game is set in our world,
Yes.
and so I think there's an interest to both.
It's such a cool thing too because like I like that aspect of World of Darkness because you have to like people are familiar with the concept of vampires. You might need to explain to them the specifics, but they know about vampires.
Right,
And they're familiar with the concept of the United States or like Florida. Like
right.
they have you don't have to and this is a Limblorb and here this is the magical king of Pedunking. And it's like, okay, well, what does any of this mean? This is just words. But we are already grounded in the real world. We understand. We can relate to these concepts.
Oh, absolutely. And all of the different experiences that people have are equally valuable through the World of Darkness
Yes.
lens. So whether you're from
Yes.
Australia, the UK, the Middle East, Canada, America, anywhere, all of those things can have a World of Darkness lens put over it. Whereas, and
Yeah.
I know I'm going to get some backlash for this, but like D&D, most people access D&D through a Lord of the Rings mindset. Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings was their intro to fantasy, and that's how they see it now. Now it's becoming less and less so as there's more media than ever. But from my generation, at the very least, it wasn't a popular concept. You had D&D, you had Lord of the Rings, so you came in through one of those two angles. Uh, Whereas World of Darkness doesn't matter where you're from. You've had
Yeah.
mythos about vampires, you've had mythos about werewolves, you've had mythos about ghosts, and you can access the World of Darkness through whatever cultural perspective you're coming through because there's probably something in that culture that is relevant to what they're setting up in the World of Darkness.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Uh Tumultus asks, "What's the origin of your screen name? Where did the WoD come from? Why that one
Uh,
specifically?"
I so when I was 11, I came up with the scream name Silver G, and I thought I was the coolest kid. And when I was like 14 and making my Minecraft account, I was like, oh no, Silver G, that's incredibly cringe. I'm gonna do a new one, and I'm gonna do a funny one, and I'm gonna call myself BurgerKrieg because it's the German word for civil war is Bürgerkrieg with the U with the two dots on it,
Mm-hmm.
and but then Bürgerkrieg like burger warfare. Haha, very funny. And it's just my Minecraft username from when I was 14, but I still like it.
I think
I
it's
think that
great.
was a pretty funny one that I did when I was 14, so I'm sticking with it.
Is there anything that you're currently working on that we should keep an eye out for? Do you have any projects currently that you're working on that you can give us a sneak peek into that we should keep an eye out
Oh,
for?
do I? Oh, do I? Um, I am coming out with a novel.
Okay.
Yes, it's what I still need is the cover art. I've sent my artist is currently out of the country. So it's just me. I timed it poorly with him. So, but that's gonna yeah. I expect like sometime this year, probably in the next 3 months or so, I'm gonna be self-publishing a novel.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I've tried to get it traditionally published, but I got like a lot of very nicely worded rejection letters. Like, yeah, this is cool, but like nobody's going to buy a western.
Oh,
Westerns,
come
nobody buys
on.
westerns. Yeah, if no publisher buys westerns unless it's like a Christian cowboy romance, and that isn't what it is. It's a sci-fi western.
Right.
So
Well, and
even
those are
Firefly,
popular. Those are
yeah,
popular.
it's
Like
so
they've been
weird.
popular for the
Even
last 20 years.
Joss Whedon had to pitch Firefly without mentioning anything about like Western or Western themes, so they would like buy it. It's really really weird. That there's like such an aversion to the genre in like publishing circles because people really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna self-publish this. I'm not gonna do it like via Amazon. I'm probably gonna do it via Drive Through Fiction because it's a RPG related market.
Yeah.
It's a smaller market, but it's not Amazon.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There might be something huge that I'm working on right now, but that I don't that it's not in my head at this moment. um, I might eventually come out with a based on the storyteller system RPG system
That'd be
called Space of
awesome.
the Frontier. I mentioned this earlier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Space of the Frontier, but I don't. I am doing this mainly for myself currently. I'm working on this messing around with it. I've done like one playtest in it. It went very well. It was a humanitarian mission, and it was about like they didn't fight at all. It was very cool. But this is like a way down the line, and I don't even know if I can technically do it because the sort of the World of Darkness licensing is like, oh well, but you can't do it for games that are not set in the World of Darkness. But also the law says that you can just use game rules. You cannot copyright game rules.
Right.
So that's gonna be a tricky thing if I ever want to like put this out at all. Like maybe I'll
Yeah.
just put it in my drawer. But I kind of want to
Well,
publish it at
and
some
I know
point.
a lot of people have gone through Drive Through RPG or Storyteller's Vault using this
Yeah,
system, and they haven't had any issues selling their own twists on stuff. So I don't know. It's very
yeah,
loosely kind of adjudicated or worded. So who knows?
yeah,
Who knows? You
yeah,
never know until you try.
yeah.
What about on YouTube? Are you working on any videos or any? Do you have any inspiration for videos that you want to release coming up soon?
I might I say soon. I don't know how soon this is. Like
Sure.
the sickness that I've had this past week really kind of threw a wrench into a lot of my plans. I'm not even sure what the next video is going to be. I have like several half finished scripts, which is a terrible way of working.
It's fine. You
In
never
terms
know
of
when
World
they're going to come up.
yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Um I have to snip the Vic Vapor up for a second.
Yes, please.
It really helps clear the airways, and it goes nicely into the lungs. The next video is definitely not going to be an RPG World Darkness one. It's going to be a politics one. I'm not sure yet if it's going to be. It's going to have a very like inflammatory title for sure. That's how I roll. I think that I'm really thinking the next like World of Darkness video that I want to do. I have actually. This is I'm getting a bit cocky because I maybe want to do one about like vampire bloodlines that they're not going to put in because I made them up.
Ooh, okay.
Like talk a bit about the homebrew that I made.
I'd love that. I think that would be
Yeah,
fantastic because that's great inspiration for people who do prefer a more create your own, or if they
yeah.
want to use something that someone else has created but it isn't World of Darkness canon. That's yeah,
I think
absolutely.
sometimes, I for me that's been the case. I remember watching a video by the Primogen, uh, a while ago, where he was just describing some homebrew that he made for some like chronicle, and it was just completely out there. And I feel like seeing someone as prestigious as the Primogen doing
Yeah.
it gave me permission to really dig into the creative aspects of World of Darkness. So maybe that's something that, aside from like, oh, maybe they'll find this interesting what I made and use it themselves, also give them something to be like, oh, I have permission to do this sort of thing.
Well, and one of the things that Huddy, who is the World of Darkness community ambassador, said is that they love people coming up with stuff. Like they love people putting out content or commenting on things or making suggestions or tips, and that they pay attention to all of that stuff. And so if they see something they really like, they pass it up the chain. Or if other people suggest things, they'll pass them along. So I think more now than ever, it's a much less gatekept community of like,
Yeah.
no, we're doing things the way we like them. We take no outside, advice or anything like that. No, like I feel like they're very open to like seeing what other people are doing and maybe incorporating some of that into what their future plans are. And I've seen that they have, brought on people as writers or as, creative input from their greater community to have some say in it. So why not shoot your shot? Like if there's ever going to be a time to shoot your shot, it might as
Yeah.
well be when they're in an open-minded space to accept that kind of
I
stuff.
really, I'm not even into. I don't even need them to like be. Oh, this is going to be World of Darkness
No,
lore. I
yeah,
really, this. I just want people to be able to have fun with it and enjoy it. That's my main goal. Like in some ways, I find that World of Darkness, obviously, still being it's an IP that's owned by a corporation, and all that, but
right,
it's also a big creative project that a lot of people have contributed to.
absolutely,
Um, so that's
absolutely.
something I really like about it.
What advice would you give to somebody who wanted to get into the YouTube video making game? Like somebody who's inspired by what you do and might want to try and take a shot at it themselves. Like, what was your process of figuring it all out like, and what advice would you give that could help people avoid some of the pitfalls maybe that you encountered or experienced in your creation process?
Um, well, crucially, I think this is something I talk about I talk about with like YouTubers that are significantly bigger than me. A lot of them feel like they have sort of pigeonholed themselves into something that they don't really enjoy doing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not even necessarily because doing it on YouTube took the fun out of it, because also but also like they changed as a person.
Yeah,
Maybe in 5 years I will no longer care about World of Darkness. It'll
maybe.
just be something, a time of my life I look upon with fondness, right? I've always held that it is very important to continue doing, to always be doing the sort of content that you enjoy doing, and like change that up, evolve
Yeah.
with your own interests and your own needs. This at the same time, this has hampered me in my growth as a YouTuber. I think that's the price you pay.
Yep.
I think it's you shouldn't try chasing the big numbers, because every single time I have made big numbers, uh, it was by accident. The only time I expected to make big numbers and put a lot of work into a project because I expected big numbers, and then that actually happened, was 20 days ago
Oh,
with the
really?
werewolf video. That's the only time this has ever happened. I've been doing this for like since 2017. I've been doing YouTube. That's the one time it happened. So it's I think that's really something that'll keep you going. You need to do it because you enjoy it. This isn't a good like career choice.
Right.
It's a terrible career choice. I'm a moron. I should never have done this. I just got extremely lucky. I
Yeah.
got lucky doing what I do. There's a lot of really good content creators out there that just they never make it because of just chance.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of terrible content creators out there who are enormously successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, if you do it because you have fun making the videos. And you don't need to take it so seriously. You having fun doing the thing, doing the work, and it is actually
It
work,
is work.
is what matters.
Well,
I mean, it's not what matters the most necessarily, but it is something that definitely matters a lot.
I think people misinterpret or misunderstand the difference between work and enjoyment, like work and
Yeah.
not liking the thing that you're doing. Like
Yeah.
people assume that work is a bad thing when in truth, like something you can enjoy can still take a lot of work. St. Pete by Night, these
Yes.
shows, these interviews,
Oh
all this
yeah.
stuff takes
I
a
imagine.
ton of work, but I
Yeah.
love doing it. I love every
Yeah.
step of the process, and I love, the it's not about the results. This might get a lot of views, it might get no views, but I enjoyed the conversation we had.
Yeah.
I enjoyed introducing my community to you, if they weren't already fans, which many of them already are. But I enjoy the opportunities that creates, and if I stop enjoying it, if the work isn't worth the reward, I just don't do it anymore. Like there's
Yeah.
you shouldn't be beholden to making what other people want. It should just be what you want, because other
Yeah.
people who like that thing will find enjoyment in it.
I think the
Uh,
commodification of art really has like turned that relationship on its head a lot, and I don't think that's good for art and artists.
oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And this unrealistic standard that's been put out there of like you'll be discovered,
Yeah.
you're gonna be the next Justin Bieber if you record song covers. Like, no, you're not.
No.
You might, maybe luck plays such a big part into it, like you said. Right time, right place, right person saw the thing they wanted, and they saw dollar signs in their eyes, and that's why it happened. Like
You
it's not.
that's really I think that can ruin your life too though.
It can. Look. Yes.
I don't want to go into that sort of space. I don't
No.
want that kind of success because it's not real. It's being like taken by House Leannon
Yeah.
and having your glamour sucked out of you.
Yep.
I usually develop the find out what you enjoy doing and do that. And if other people like it as well, over time, over a long period of time, they might stick with you in it. It's not You're not going to be huge success, and it's really not worth it being a huge
No.
success, honestly, because like having a smaller community, having like being actually known for being passionate about what you do, it lends a uniqueness to what you do that is much more valuable than just trying to do the same generic I'm the next this guy, of which there are a billion
Yep.
already.
100%. For every Mr. Beast, there's 50,000 Mr. Beast
Yeah.
wannabes. There's,
And Mr. Beast is fucking miserable.
yeah.
Like I don't
Oh,
know,
for
like
sure.
he is honestly his life sucks. It's so bad. I really, really hope he gets out of the game.
Yeah, for sure. For people who want to get into World of Darkness lore, obviously you're a great resource for that, because you do a lot of the hard work for people of sifting
Yeah.
through a lot of the bullshit, of finding the resources, of taking the important points out of it. But if there are people who are inspired by the lore videos you create and want to dig deeper, what kind of advice would you give to them? Because, like you said, it can be very, very overwhelming to,
Yeah.
or very intimidating to look at like a White Wolf wiki or anything like that and just be like, where do I even begin? What would you suggest as a methods for people looking into researching or going deeper into the World of Darkness stuff?
What I always find helps me when I go into these deep dives, I don't just do deep dives on World of Darkness either. So
No,
this is a general strategy. I like creating a framework that'll make me care about the thing. I don't like it's just having information floating out there in limbo. You don't internalize it. I like understanding the basics of the thing, which I think my video is actually kind of good for, and
absolutely.
then looking into like, oh no, maybe the city that you live in, the country that you live in, some sort of cultural group that you're a part of, right? The hobby that you're in, and you might want to try and find that within the world of darkness. And from there, you can like, there's going to be bridges to various other things that you'll also find interesting. And as you understand more and more, you will become interested in more and more of the things. And
Yeah.
at some point, you're going to arrive in places that you never thought you'd end up.
Oh, for sure, for sure. The number of rabbit holes, I'm like, how did I even end up here, and why have I spent 6 hours doing this? Like, it's
Yeah,
just.
yeah,
But I think that there is no perfect access point. Like you said, find something you're interested in, whether it's a clan, a person, an event, whatever, and just see where it takes you.
Yeah.
because there are an unlimited amount of paths to go down, and nobody, and I truly believe, even though I think you're one of the foremost experts in this, I don't think no one's ever truly an expert in this. There's just too
Yeah.
much.
No.
Like
There's too
there's
much.
too
There
much.
is so much I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, just pick a path and go, and
Yeah.
you'll never know where you'll end up. And you can avoid things that don't interest you. You can stick to things that do.
Don't worry about getting stuff wrong either. It
Yeah.
happens.
Oh, for sure.
This isn't reality.
No,
So you can get stuff wrong. It's
absolutely,
fine. It's
absolutely.
okay. There's not a test at the end of this.
Is there anything you'd like to promote? Is there anything you'd like to push people towards? Obviously,
Um,
your content, but is there anything
yeah,
else you'd like to promote?
my YouTube channel, obviously, my novel that I'm bringing out. But I actually I have a many people they don't realize this. I have a channel. A while I've it's slowed down in the past couple of years, but I actually write short stories. I write a lot of short stories. I used to write a lot more
Really?
than
Okay.
now. Yeah, and I have a channel called Who Is Betty, where I do audiobooks of those same short stories. And there's actually, I mean, I'm pointing at it now. You can't see it. It's up there where the bookshelf is. I have a short story collection that's out that is also
Really?
it's called 34 Worlds. It has 34 short stories in it.
Okay.
Um, and none of them are World of Darkness, by the way. I
No,
might
no,
at
no.
some point write World of Darkness short stories. But
I think
none
it'd
of
be great.
these are. Yeah, I've kind of I'm so like busy. I went back in university, studying geography and I'm the novel and all that. It's kind of hard to. I'm a workaholic
For
to the
sure.
extent that I've been very sick, and like my boyfriend has been with me basically this whole time. He left like just before this interview, just to make sure that I don't work. It's like, don't you do it?
Don't you do it?
Yeah, yeah. Do you stay in bed? I'll make you a cup of tea. It's like, okay, thank you. I'm
Amazing.
bored. I need to
Absolutely
work.
amazing.
But yeah, check out Who is Betty, my audiobook short stories channel, and maybe get my short story collection, 34 Worlds.
Oh, absolutely. Go do that. And is it linked on your Twitter or on your YouTube? Is it a way to find it
It
through
should
there?
be on. I found out recently that the YouTube you had this section of channels, extra channels. They just got rid of that without
Yeah.
telling anyone. So I have relinked it. It should be. Let me check actually right now. It should be back on my channel page.
Okay.
The book. It's also the channel is linked in the description of every one of my videos.
Oh, perfect.
And
Okay. So they could just check out the description of any of your. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The homepage, yeah, and the homepage, there's like the featured channels. It's the first one of them.
Fantastic.
Um, yeah,
Fantastic.
that's my short stories channel.
Well, I want to encourage everybody to go follow the Burger Krieg on YouTube. You can see the channel on the screen right now. There are amazing World of Darkness videos if that's your flavor, but there's also just so much other content. It's a beautiful channel because it is so varied. So even if you're sick of hearing us talk about World of Darkness, you had enough of watching videos about World of Darkness, there's so much other cool stuff on there to discover. You can also go give the Burger Krieg a follow on Twitter. While Twitter still
Yes,
exists for however long it does still exist,
yes.
you can go give a follow over there and show some support for our amazing guests. But Gideon, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really, really appreciate you making time in your schedule. It's been an absolute privilege and a delight talking to you. And maybe when Changeling comes out, if it comes out, maybe we'll have you back and we can make a time for us to chat and
Yeah, yeah. I
dissect
thank you
all
for
of
having
that.
me.
Oh,
Thank you for having me.
absolutely.
This has been great.
It's
This is I always love doing these, but this one once again has reminded me why I love doing these.
100%. 100%. I'm really grateful that you took the time to do it. Go follow the Burger Crate and go follow St. Pete by Night on all the social medias
Yes,
listed on the bottom there and
yes.
in the descriptions. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. We will definitely have you back if you
Thank
have
you for
time in
having
your
me.
busy, busy
Yes, yes.
schedule to do so. And we're going to keep an eye out for those books or the book coming out because I absolutely would love that, or a role playing game or anything because it sounds like you're so creatively busy, but that just makes for more amazing content for us. So we're thankful for everything you've done. But thank you all for watching tonight, and have a good rest of your evening. We'll see you next time. Oh, programming note upcoming. Next, we have Rage Across Tampa, The Werewolf, The Apocalypse Chronicle on Tuesday. Then we have Hunter the Reckoning, What the Hell Is That Chronicle on Friday. And then we'll be back with another After Dark with Miss Magitech, a very big content creator in the world of darkness, next Saturday on our After Dark. Bloody Strings and Don't Get Caught are on break for the next couple weeks, so check into the schedule for those. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a lovely evening, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.